Hello and welcome to this little mini training I have created on Somatic Kundalini. Now, many of you may know about Kundalini, and this space has expanded massively. So, I've created this simple mini training just so you can have a real little understanding about what it kind of is. I go more deeper into my actual Somatic Kundalini training course, which you can join either June or October. But this is just kind of like an overall, just a little bit about what you kind of like a taste of what you'll get from the training, but also that you have a more understanding. Now, I have seen how much this space has expanded when I connected with Kundalini about it's going to be 4.5 years ago. So, just a little bit about me. I'm Carolina. So, I have been doing this type of work for about 3.5 years now. I connected to Kundalini about 4.5 years ago, and it happened when I went to a Kundalini session. At the time, it was called Kundalini Activation, the session. And for me, my Kundalini awakened very quickly, spontaneously. This doesn't happen to many people, but at that point, it did happen to me. And for that, it was the catalyst of complete transformation and has changed my life for the better. But oh my gosh, it was such a deep unraveling that I had to go through when I was connecting with this energy, which is my energy, which is your energy. Kundalini is your life force energy, and this is what we're gonna kind of go through. Now, since then, so before Kundalini, I was at a point in my life where I was deeply stuck. I felt unfulfilled. I felt overwhelmed. I felt burnt out. And I didn't even know that I was burnt out until I started going on this journey and realized that majority of my life I was literally living in survival. Hence why I was having hormonal issues. I was suffering with polycystic ovaries. I had endometriosis. Again, also, I was inflamed. My body was constantly puffy, feeling heavy, feeling like my weight was always fluctuating. I was living a life that where I was restricting, I was following the trends, diets, the wellness industry, and I had a career, a job that was really demanding. I was a beauty therapist, and at this point, I had a beauty business and I was working such long hours, and I just didn't know what the true meaning for life was because I was so caught up in the loop of what society wanted me to be. But also, I was living with anxiety and depression, and I was still living a lot within the past, and I had a lot of insecurities. I lacked in self-worth and disconnection. I didn't have any real joy or feel purpose in life. So it was kind of like at that point where I was in this deep suffering and I wanted to get out of it. And I kind of didn't know how, because I was so familiar with what I knew. And I only came to this realization when I started to go through my unraveling. So when Kundalini came into my life, it was the most biggest blessing, although it was really uncomfortable at times because it literally will shed you. It will literally take you on a journey that will release what is no longer for you. And that can be uncomfortable in a sense because it's something that you've just known majority of your life. But when you break free of that and you see what true vitality, true liberation is, oh my gosh, it will set you free. I am now in this place in my life where, although the journey is still continuous, unraveling, but I'm in this point in my life where I just feel deep peace, contentment, this vitality and health within me. I'm like tearing up even talking about it because I know what it's like when you feel at this rock bottom point of your life or where you feel like you have nothing else to give or you don't even know what to do or be or what direction to go in. And you're just tired, you're exhausted. And when I went on this unraveling, I realized there was so much to it and why I was feeling this. And it was due because I was holding on to suppressed emotions, trauma in my body. I was living a life that wasn't truly mine. I was, yeah, living from belief systems, habits that weren't mine. And this is the thing, this is the process of Kundalini. It takes you on the journey of really unraveling that. But anyway, there is so much more to my story, but that's just like a little bit. So, I and then I so the point is that I I closed my beauty business. I moved away from Jersey to abroad, and I started fulfilling a path that was truly aligned for me. And it was this, working, helping people find themselves, remember who they are, connect. I work with a lot of women to really help them to connect, to regulate, to write, to connect to their feminine essence, to feel themselves again, to heal from survival patterns, from burnout, from disconnection, from hormonal imbalances. But also I work with men. I work with them various of people, but mostly my main, I don't like the word niche, but what I really work with people is about connecting and remembering and regulating nervous system. And it all comes back down to safety. So really helping people find safety themselves. Now we can go in these spaces, in these healing journeys of these loops of trying to fix or trying to find so many different things. And for me, I mean, although I wouldn't don't like to say Kundalini is a modality, but if we're going to put it down in the modality sector, Kundalini was the most profound catalyst of transformation, and I really believe that the more people connect to this energy, the more you will see profound shifts because it changes everything for you. And this, I guess, this is what this training is about. And what I'm going to provide as I've gone deeper into studying, learning about this, but not only about like the spiritual, energetic sense, but also deeper into the grounded, scientific, clinical, um, physiology like a sense, because there is so much to it. And as I've seen this space really expand, I've seen how many misconceptions and misunderstanding is out there now. A lot of people do think it's all spiritual woo woo, but there is so much more to it. And I think it's for you to know the right education, but not only it's for yourself, for your own journey, your own path, and so that you can build this own evolution with you and really work with this energy. But also, it's a space where you have the opportunity to help hold space for other people. So, this training that I provide, it isn't just for you to facilitate for others. That's why I haven't specifically said, somatic Kundalini facilitation. I've put a somatic Kundalini course because it's a space where, yes, you'll have the opportunity where you learn to also facilitate other people, but also it's a space where you can help heal in your own personal development, your own journey, and where it can help you, but also have the understanding of what is really going on. And that's something that really I missed in my journey. I was going to the sessions, I was having this thing happening to me, and I didn't understand or know about. No one knew about it. There was not much information out there about it. I didn't understand what was happening, and at that point it was taking me into loops where I felt like something was wrong or happening, or I felt kind of like that I wasn't part of like life in a sense. Like it kind of like, because a lot is happening all at once. So when you do have this understanding of what is really happening, it kind of brings you more of that this grounded approach of like understanding, okay, like this is like normal, like there isn't actually anything wrong. And I think that is so important as you go through this journey. So I guess this is what this like space is about. So you have this deep understanding. So let's go into it. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, share. Okay, so I'm going to present this. Okay, so somatic Kundalini training. So the next cohort is in June. The fourth is an 8-week journey. And there's a reason why I do this, but this is something that I will explain more deeper into this. Okay, so the sort of kind of like modules that we'll be covering within the 8-week training is what is Kundalini, its origin, its background. There will also be live attunement days, channeling how to channel the energy. There's also information about the 12 stages of what is happening in a somatic Kundalini session. So this is really important. And what I feel like many facilitators miss out on is actually understand what is happening in the process, because it's really interesting actually, but also to hold a real contained, safe space and also for yourself to understand what is happening, because there are different stages that is happening when you go to into a somatic Kundalini session. And the science of the energy. So with then what I mean with the science energy, we also cover like, down the biological aspects and the physiology aspects and the psychological aspects. And then there's also about nervous system. We tap into about the lymphatic system and the fascia. Physiology I've mentioned, and we also go into integration. This is the most important part about Kundalini in these spaces. What many people are missing, integration. Like this is the key, and this is something that I felt I missed in my journey was integration, understanding what was going on when I was going through the integration phase. And if you don't know what integration is, this is what this training will explain what it is, because this is where everything kind of really happens, and where the real truth transformation happens is in the integration stage. And this is something that I deeply emphasize. And then we tap into energetic mastery, how to hold safe spaces, and hygiene. And what I mean by like what is actual spiritual hygiene, in the sense of that, because again, there's so many misconceptions around there about spiritual hygiene and all that. We also go into clinical aspects, and we go into also trauma informed, where and how our bodies hold trauma, to understand how to hold trauma informative spaces, and understand what is happening in someone's body when they're going through a process, which is really important to understand, especially when you're working with trauma. Again, this is something that many space holders are missing, is that yes, they are holding the spaces, but someone's going through a deep process of trauma, but they're not knowing how to hold it or handle it, or um build safety in that space. And this is a thing, like when you trigger trauma, you've got to be really careful and understand and know how to handle this. And I feel like this is where a lot of people are not doing, and therefore that is why people are then saying it's dangerous, because people are not emphasizing this. And again, also this narrows down to integration. Again, we're also going to go through spiritual aspects of it, the chakras, meridian points, and quantum physics. So we are going to go down into the energetic parts and the spiritual aspects, but not what kind of you think spirituality is. And we also tap into the masculine and feminine energy, which is a big part of us, because we all have that masculine and feminine energy. Okay, so next. So things you need to know about somatic Kundalini. So I actually, again, some people call it Kundalini, um, Kundalini activation. Um, some people call it life force energy. Again, it's Kundalini is you, it's your life force energy, it's being within you, it's your innate wisdom. It's Kundalini just comes from tantric traditions, but it's just you. So you can call it whatever you want. I call it somatic Kundalini simply because Kundalini is kind of like what I connect with in the first place, but then also because there is so much somatic um it's a somatic process, and that's something that we go deeper into the training of, like what the somatic is. And what somatic is your mind and body integrating, intertwining at one. What many therapists do nowadays, or other modalities, they simply just work with the mind, but actually like our bodies hold the score. Like our minds may forget, but our bodies don't. And what the power of this work is about, bringing the awareness between the mind and body, where they integrate and intertwine as one. So when somatic is when you are somatically releasing, where you are releasing it from the body, not just the mind. So it's from the somatic. That is what it is. Okay, so yes, so yes, it's just your life. But again, we go more deeper into what this was all about. If you are intrigued, that is what the training is about, which I am doing in June and October. So this is really important. Who initiates and attunes you matters. Okay, so we all have a blueprint within us. Like we have this living blueprint, and this blueprint comes from our personalities, who we are, like our belief systems, like who we are as a person, like what we've embodied, what we've experienced. And we all hold that. Now, who initiates you matters because it's who you then tune into. It's a bit like tuning into a Wi-Fi. There are different Wi-Fis. And it's that is what matters because if you are being facilitated or attuned by, let's say, someone who is facilitating, but they don't have a freaking clue what they're doing, or they haven't been going through their own journey or embodiment or experiences, then you will tune into that. If it's like that's the blueprint you'll carry. So that's why it's really important who you holds that space. If you have been tuned into someone who has, and now again, this energy, this space has turned into like cults and stuff where there's sexualizing being happening, where there's like so much ego and stuff around it, like you will tune into that and then that's what you will carry. Because again, we are always consuming from other people and like those projections. And that's when it's like tuning into someone's Wi-Fi. And that really matters who attunes you because then that will relate in how you work with people, but also how your journey is. Now, there is a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misconceptions out there. There is a lot of people just doing it for the sake of it, a lot of people just doing it for the money, a lot of people perform for the trends, to go viral, to this, and they're not actually truly connecting with their hearts. Now, that really matters. Is finding someone who knows what they're doing, who is really leading from a place from the heart rather from ego, because then that will actually really interrelate with like your journey and your process and how you then hold space. So, Kundalini isn't just all woo woo, there is scientific evidence behind this, okay? It is science backed. I literally have been studying, I still do. Like, I spent, especially last year, the last year, like really studying deeper into Kundalini. And there is so much happening in a biological sense, in a scientific perspective, like neuroscience and like psychological. So, like, we have the ability to heal ourselves. Like, we have the ability to shift our cells, our subconscious, our neuroplasticity, and also we have the ability to reverse our biology. Now, when you're going in a Kundalini process, when you're going through this journey, this is what is happening. You are renewing your cells, you're sending out new biochemical responses. You have neuroplastic cells, which is what holds your like memory, your choices, your personality, your habits, your beliefs. Like you are reversing that. You are weakening old ones and awakening new ones. Like this is what is happening on a cellular level. And with that, that is why then people's habits change. That's why people changes in themselves. And that's why people jobs change. And that's why the clothes they want to wear change. And that's why the situations they want to do change. And that's why they have more boundaries or they stop people pleasing or they finally connect to their self-worth, why people lose weight, why people feel more radiant health and vitality because you are literally shifting what you thought was familiar, who you thought was you, and you're creating a new persona. And that is what's happening on a cellular level. You're shifting that. You're also shifting your genes. So things that you've probably carried like patterns and stuff from your like parents, from caregivers, from ancestors and stuff. You're also reversing that because yes, we have the ability to do that now. In the training, obviously, it goes more in depth than that. Like, wow, how fascinating that I can do that. And you're also shifting your brainwave states and in a neuroscience level, and then that with that shift the way you think, the way your perspective, but it also you are creating this new persona within you. So there is so much more that is happening within that, as well as that you're expanding your consciousness, you're expanding your energetic field, you are enhancing your heart center. You are also doing that if you were to go down like the spiritual sense. And when you're doing that, when you're elevating your frequency, your consciousness, there is no choice for everything to shift. But as well, in an internal level, this is what you're creating yourself. You're basically rejuvenating your whole body, recalibrating your cells, recalibrating your neuro responses, shifting your amygdala, which is your threat and your memory response. You're shifting it from threat to safety. You're regulating your nervous system. you're creating this whole new self. And that's why I always say that like it's your internal world that you need to change in order to see change in your outer reality. So somatic Kundalini sessions come in 12 stages. Um, Understand what is happening. So again, it comes in 12 stages, like I mentioned previously. And what is really important is to understand what is happening in between each stage when you're holding a Kundalini session, if you're wanting to hold, or even if you're going to Kundalini sessions, to understand what is happening in sessions. Because here's the thing that many facilitators go in this space and they're either playing too intense music or they're um yeah, they're trying to basically push buttons that they shouldn't be, or they're kind of like going for like more power, more depth. Like power doesn't come from pushing or hard or more movement or anything like that. It's not about the movement. It is not about the movement. It's not anything about that. It's about safety and it's about understanding the stages so you know how to lead a session where there's not too much overactivation, where there is steadiness and balance, where integration is allowed in between as the client is processing or as you are processing. Now, this is what many facilitators or people miss in this process, and that is why sometimes people after sessions can feel not so great or a lot in a sense like just where they feel like there hasn't been like enough like grounding or integrating in a sense like although yes you go through profound shifts but it's really important how to conduct this session and understanding the 12 different stages, and this is led by how you hold the space, which is actually less is more, also by the music that you like you put out, and also from you how you hold the session in the space and how you tune into that. And that's something that we go deeper into the Kundalini training. So again, like I said, Kundalini isn't a trend, it isn't a performance, nor about the movement. Less is more. Everyone thinks it's about the movement. It's like, oh, because I didn't feel it. And this is one thing why kind of like I kind of try not to put any videos out there of like people with like movements and stuff like that because it's not about that. And what I've had previous in people coming in sessions is like, oh, but I saw a video and I didn't get that on this and that. And they think powerful has to be about the movement and about the extremes, but it's not. You know, power comes with softness and with safety. Like that's the most important part. And what also is happening that if, as a facilitator, if you're someone that's already facilitating that, like if you're doing too much in a session, you're going to end up depleting yourself. You're going to be draining yourself, but also that is when the intellect comes too high and it's also going to impact the session and the other people's process. So less is more. And I know when you're starting this, if you've not been taught about this or you don't feel confident, you will probably go into sessions trying to push, 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 and you will feel depleted and drained, or you will stop what is actually, it will kind of interfere with what is actually meant to happen in this in the session. And also other people can feel that. So um less is more in these sessions. And this is for your own health and safety, but also for your clients as well. Because and this goes from your own process when you're embodying this as a facilitator. And this is something that I had to learn in my journey and something that in my training I didn't get is like I was probably pushing myself too much and wasn't trusting enough in the intelligence of this life force because it has its own intelligence. Source knows what to do. Source, universe, consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it, like it knows what to do. And that's why you've got to let go of the intellect, the ego, and tap into the heart. And that actually the less is more. So this is something that we deeply go into within the somatic, the training as well. So, what spiritual hygiene actually is, this is a good one because I see this so much. Palo Santo, sage, crystals is not going to save you. It is not going to save you or help. Yes, you can use them, useful tools, but if you think that's going to protect you, if you think that's not good at hygiene, no. Spiritual hygiene is filling up your cup. It's about you, it's yourself. So that means that you have to really look at your life, look at yourself, and really make sure that you delegate time and fill up your cup. And look at your areas in life. Okay, where am I not putting boundaries? Where am I people pleasing? Where am I overgiving? Where am I abandoning myself? Why don't I fill up my cup? Really looking at things that fill up. But that is what spiritual hygiene is, and whether that is filling up as like rest, it having making sure you rest, or is it whether it's filling up your cup like going out for a walk, or is it having a bath, or is it just simply singing a song, or is it dancing, or is it having a sort of conversation, or is it going to a dance class, or is it like it's filling up your cup, whatever that may be, even if it's just watching a Netflix, like filling up your cup is the most important spiritual hygiene. Again, also, this isn't like any other job, okay? As if you're holding the space, and again, when you're going through this journey, there's going to be a lot of changes happening. And that means that your values may not be the same as it was last time. Like may not be what. So hang on a minute. The Hoover thing is just going off. I need to just switch it off. Okay, so just back on where I was because that was annoying. Okay, sorry for that interruption. So what was I saying? So yes, so that is what is really important. I don't even know what I was saying, but yes, holding like a safe, yeah, your spiritual hygiene is about filling up your cup. And the thing is like when you're going through this journey, like you will have to learn how to delegate time. You will have to, it's about learning to that, you know, when you've held a session, like you can't go into the back into your day-to-day life. You just need a moment to just breathe, to just pause, to just be in the moment, to just really bring yourself back down. And it's about learning your values. It's basically looking at your values, and as you're going through this process, like what you thought your values may not be anymore, and you'll create new ones. So that's where it really comes from. So we'll kind of emphasize more on this when we do the actual training. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So, trauma informed. So many facilitators helping release trauma from the body, but yet not knowing what is actually happening or to sustain it. Now, this is really vital and an important piece because this is what is really necessary when holding spaces is to, especially when you're dealing with trauma now. Trauma, like when you're going into these sessions, like trauma is being triggered, disrupted to be transmuted and alchemized into safety. If you do not know how to do that, then that can actually be a problem. Now, this is what many people don't know do is how to handle that and how to sustain or contain that space or what to do in that moment because it's to be alchemized and be transmuted and understand and know what is happening in the body at that time, which many people don't. So this is again something that we go deeper into the training. So if you're holding space, feeling depleted, drained, and like you're taking on client problems, then you haven't been taught how to channel and sustain a clean energy field. Again, this is another thing. This comes down to also spiritual hygiene with yourself, your own embodiment, your journey, but also how to hold a safe, sustainable space and how to create a space which is clean and sustainable and also a space where you don't take on of that. And this is where integrity comes in, discernment and boundaries. And again, this is when also you do not let your ego take over and you come back to the heart and trusting in this intelligence and this life force within you, the source that has its own innate wisdom, but also knowing how to channel that through without stepping over the limits and the boundaries. Although energy doesn't have limits, but as humans, you do. And you are not here to take on other people's, you're here to transmute and alchemize it. And this is something that many people are missing in their spaces. Um, Facilitating, I used to be like that, guilty, I used to have that, but again, that's because I never got taught or know how to do this. So this is something that I do deeper within my training. So somatic Kundalini isn't any other like any other like modality. Like I said, it's like I don't like to call it like a modality, but if we're going to put it in the modality sector, then here we go. Because Kundalini is a way of life. It is you. It's not something you do. It's something that moves through the body organically and very powerful. If misunderstood, that's when things become dangerous. Knowing the ins and out of this energy is important and to hold a safe space. So the important piece that most people miss is integration. Integration is yeah, it's the most important part because integration is where everything begins to recalibrate and realign. So you can be doing the sessions, you can be doing all the things, you can be doing all the inner work, but your body needs that time and space to integrate. And the integration starts when you are holding a session or after you've been a session, if you're going through the process or if you're going through this journey. Like integration is where everything, yeah, it's a bit like a computer system where you reset it, you reboot it, and then it needs time to kind of like reset itself, do all these new downloads. Because what is happening is that you've now made room for your body. You've now made that space, you've released, you let go, you're creating this space, and now your body kind of needs time to like process it. Like it needs a minute. Like your muscle memory, your muscle, it's a bit like when you go to the gym, you need some day time to like kind of let your muscles relax for your muscle tissue to build. Like it doesn't actually happen when you're in when you're training at the gym. Like that's not where the muscle grows and builds. It happens when you're integrating, like when you're in the, let's say, rest and digest stage. And that's what many people miss in these spaces, that they're like doing the work, they're going to the sessions, they're doing all the things, but they're missing this important part. And that's why many people collapse, or they feel worse off, or they feel like things are not working, or they're going back in loops because this has not been emphasized in their journey, in the spaces. And this is something that we tap in deeper in this space. But for your safety, but also for client safety, if you want to hold space, but also for your own journey, if you're going through this unraveling. So the somatic Kundalini training, I have got 2 dates. Um, I have got June the 4th, and then also in October. I am just mainly advertising for June because it is coming up and we already have some beautiful souls in the space. So it's online, it's through Zoom. If you're wondering, does it work through Zoom? Absolutely. Again, because energy is just energy. Also, it's an opportunity where you can do it from a space from home where you don't have to travel or anything. And it's still like you're in it, and you still get those real in time practices. So you get live practical days and teachings, which is specific immersive days, which is if you want to know more, then this is something that I send when you've applied for the training. So you have that, and then you also have an opportunity to practice in real time where you will practice with real in time clients, and you also have access to all recorded material, so everything is recorded in the space, and then you have access to that. You have also bi-weekly calls where you will have educational pieces but also support. You have a Telegram group support space where is it basically, yeah, a space for support, guidance, anything that needs to be said or posted. If you're going through the process, because again, as you're going through the training, the course, you then also go through your own process and unraveling, and it's kind of a place for you to share, but also where updates are put in there as well. So in the recording material, it's all that those modules that we were going to cover. So the clinical aspects, the biological. So that's all that it covers, and then you have that access. And then you also have an informative work booklet with study material that you can also go back onto. So it is 8 weeks. I do 8 weeks for a reason, because again, it's not just a quick in and out qualification. This is more than just any other modality. This is your life force. It's not just. Oh, just click off that. Sorry, I just got by side then. So yeah, it's not just like any other modality. So I do 8 weeks so that you can really have time and space to integrate, but also where we can spread out the modules, so it can give you time to kind of like really receive the information. Again, it can be a lot of information. It's a lot in it. So it needs to it's spread out so you can have that time and space to kind of like integrate it all. Like, although you have lifetime access to all materials, so that's why you can go back on it as well, because there's only so much you can digest at a time. But I also like to keep the space as something confined, as a space where we kind of really build this safety, this community, and where you can get like the real significant support as needed and when necessary when going through your own process, your own journey, because you will be going through your own journey as well. So, who's it for? This space is for if you are a facilitator at the moment and you are wanting to learn more, you feel like there was a lot of things that you've missed and you feel like you want to know more on a deeper level, and you feel like it'll be really helpful for you holding space, but also your clients. And then absolutely, it can also be if you're a practitioner in any other things, like whether it's therapy, whether it's doing breath work, whether it's doing sound healing, whether it's doing tarot, like any yoga, also for you. But also if you are just someone who's in the corporate firm, or you have another career, or um, and you're just simply like wanting to learn and evolve in your own evolution and understand and know if you're going on your own healing journey, your process, and you kind of want to use this to help you, then absolutely this is also for you. Men and women are welcome. Again, if you want to know more, then it's for you to apply. So I do want to make sure, like, to make sure this is the right fit for you. And so the applications I will put, where you can just email me or message me, where you can ask for the application link and more of the information, and then you apply, and then we arrange a free consultation call, and then from there we can see if you are the right fit. Again, I also want to make this accessible, so I do also offer payment options to make it accessible for you, whether you want to pay it off in a period of time, a monthly period of time. There's also that. Again, this is for your own evolution, your own understanding, your own healing journey. It's a space where you can just really build this authority and learn. And I guess that's the thing in life, that we're here to experience, we're here to learn. And the reason why people are feeling so stuck and disconnected as well is because they're not using their creative force within them, which is again something that we'll talk about, like what our life was is. And a lot of people are looking for too many quick fixes and not really learning and trusting themselves and building the safety so that they can move forward in life, to feel the health, the vitality, to pursue what feels good, and to feel this confidence in themselves again. So thank you so much for listening, and talk soon.